Bobby Fischer is considered by many people as the best player in the history of chess. He's played many great games, and today we're going to see one of those. One that he played when he was only 13 years old, and still he managed to amaze the whole world in a game that was literally called as the game of the century. The game started with this kind of Indian King's Indian with bishop d7, but Donald continued his position with d4, castle, and bishop f4. This way, he didn't play e4, so he's allowing black to play some kind of Grunfeld. Of course, it will be possible for Fischer to play just like some kind of King Indian, but he said, okay, I'll play d5 because white has everything here. He have no development yet, so it makes sense to try to open the whole position as much as possible. Here, Donald continued with the move queen b3. The whole idea of this move is that once you take on c4 and you take with the queen, now it's not so easy for black to open up the whole position with c5, since many times, well, white will be able to simply take with the queen. This way, white somehow managed to keep the position more close, and this way, let's say that the development that he don't have is not so much important. So after queen c4, Fischer played c6, main idea just to, he just avoid the pawn to be hanging on c7, and he's also preparing some b5 followed by b4 in some positions. Here, Donald continued with e4. He wants to keep developing the pieces, bishop to e2, king is going to the short castle, and also he's, of course, controlling the center. Now Fischer continued with knight b7. He wants to come to b6, attack the queen, and hopefully win some tempos to gain back the possibility of opening up in the center. Here, Donald already starts to be very prophylactic. He played the move rook d1. Of course, the rook is not doing anything on a1. It makes sense to put the rook on d1, but you already have to be a bit careful when your king is in the center. Everything is happening there, and let's say he's trying to not allow black to open up everything, but it's not so easy to do it. Fischer continued with knight b6. He's attacking the queen, queen c5, and bishop g4. Main idea of bishop g4, he wants to eliminate this knight at some point, because one of the black main idea will be to continue with knight fd7 followed by e5, and this way he will manage to open up the position. Let's say something like bishop e2 will be normal, and then knight fd7 could come, queen a3, and then maybe he wanted to take and play e5, and after the e5, something like queen b8, take here, and then play some kind of position with the open third there, some strong bishop here, the knight can jump here, and he has definitely some initiative, right? But for that reason, actually, Donald tried to play the move bishop g5, which in fact is a mistake. The idea of bishop g5 is quite clear. He wanted to avoid some knight fd7 because then maybe e7 will be hanging. But as I said, you have to be very careful when you don't have development and your king is in the center. And here the magic started to happen very quickly. Fischer found the great move, knight a4. So the idea of knight a4, of course, you want to eliminate this guy from c3, so e4 will be hanging, and you can simply not take the knight. If white continue with knight takes e4, then I take on e4, and now I'm attacking the queen, I'm attacking the bishop, I have some check on a5, depending where you go, and everything is starting to fall apart. Let's say you take here with the queen, then I have queen a4 check, and at least I can pick up the knight. You take, or you come back to c1 to defend the bishop, then, okay, simply take, and then I have this check, I'm attacking the bishop, and attacking the knight, and recovering some material, I will be a pawn up, and also my king will be much safer. So, it's simply not possible to take this guy here, and Donald had to come back to a3. Fischer took on c3, bc3, and white somehow was thinking, okay, maybe he cannot take on e4 because then I will take on e7. I attacking the queen, I'm attacking the rook, and then maybe my castle is not so far from happening. But again, Fischer had everything in control. He continued with the move queen b6. Very good move, and actually it seems like somehow a weird square for the queen, but it makes a lot of sense. And one of the main ideas of this move is that actually if white wants to pick up the rook, you can simply take with the bishop. You are attacking the queen, then okay, queen has to move, b3 will be normal to keep defending this pawn, and now you see the use of queen b6. You can take on c3, and if white takes the knight, you can ping with the bishop on b4. Of course, white could take on b6, but actually after a b6, Black has 1 pawn for the exchange, and another pawn is going to fall very quickly. We have the pair of bishop, we have very strong initiative. This pawn will be extremely strong. b5 will come, b4 will also come. With the knight here, it's very hard to imagine that white is not losing this position. That's why Donald didn't took the rook, and he decided to play bishop c4. His idea is very clear. He wanted some rook e8 to happen and then short castle and hope that the position maybe is not so terrible. But again, Fischer started to calculate, and he did it really well. He played the move knight c3. He's attacking the rook here, and he's of course inviting white to take on c3. The main point of Fischer after queen c3, he simply wants to play rook e8. The bishop is pinned and there is no way to defend it. You could come back to a3, try to defend it from here, but there is plenty of moves that are winning here. One of these is probably just queen d8 followed by queen takes c7, and since the bishop is pinned, there is not so much that white can do right now. So the main point of white was to play bishop c5. The whole idea of bishop c5, I'm attacking the queen and I want to pick the knight when you move it. If I play something like, let's say, queen c7, then I can simply take the knight. But again, Fischer had everything under control. He calculated probably before he played knight c3, and he found one of the greatest tactical ideas ever. Rook e8 check, king f1, everything seems the same as before, but now comes the whole key of the game. Bishop to e6, sacrificing the whole queen, sacrificing the knight, but the funny part is that actually white cannot take any of those pieces. Actually, well, Donald tried to take the queen, but it wasn't that great. Main idea, if white takes the knight on c3, you simply want to take on c5. Queen is pinned here, and more important, queen is pinned here. If you take on c5, I simply take on c3. I'm a pawn up on an endgame, also c5 extremely weak, and basically black is totally winning here. So Donald tried to take on b6, but after bishop c4, king g1, I already took one piece, and now we have a very funny tactical idea, which is knight e2 check, king f1, knight d4 check. You cannot do anything apart from coming back to g1, and then I come all the way back to c3. You might think, okay, but this was only a pawn, it's not so important, but the key wasn't the pawn on d4. The actual key was that now my bishop is defending my knight, so I can simply take on b6. Now, there is no queen c3. With the pawn on d4, there was queen c3. So I have two pieces. I have a lot of active pieces. I still have this knight e2 idea. Your queen is hanging, your rook is hanging, and everything is completely falling apart. Donald tried queen b4, rook a4. I'm not gonna give you this very strong bishop. Queen b6 came, and now Fischer took the whole rook. So he has two pieces and a rook for a queen, and also he has a great coordination of the pieces, so basically the game is already over. Donald tried to activate some of his pieces by playing h3, king h2. Fischer quickly took on a2, also took on f2, many pawns, and also everything is under control. Check, he came here, take, and bishop d5. Look at this incredible bishop, defending the rook, defended by a pawn, defended the king, attacking on g2, rook attacking, bishop is perfectly safe, and now the only plan is simply to start running with this guy, and there is not so much that white can do. Knight f3, knight e4, queen b8, start to run, and simply h4, h5, not even gonna give you the pleasure of playing h5, trying to complicate, not even that, knight e5, and simply king g7. Bishop is coming to d6 to complete the whole coordination, king g1, check, king f1, and it's simply impossible to avoid that this king on f1 will get mated really soon. Knight g3 came, king has to go to the center, check, king has to go more to the center, bishop b3, king c1, and now the knight comes, check, check, and rook c2 to finish the game. Extremely beautiful game with just 13-year-old, to be later one of the strongest chess player in the history and also a world champion. I hope you enjoyed the game, I hope you subscribe, and see you in the next video.